I think it's time we talk about Erik Ten Hag. I'm always asking you guys for your thoughts, your opinions, whether that's in the live stream, whether that's in the comment section, or whether it's on Discord, which will be linked in the description, by the way. Go check it out. But I'm always asking you guys for your opinions. Are you Ten Hag in? Are you Ten Hag out? Again, there's a poll on the channel which you can vote in at the moment. I think it's time I give my opinions, because we all saw that game against Coventry yesterday. We all saw how good it was for 45 minutes, how calamitous it was after that, how the team seemingly collapsed. We've seen over the course of the season the good, the bad of Erik Ten Hag and also this Manchester United side. I think it's time I give you, just straight up, how I feel about the whole situation. This isn't a particularly scripted or planned video. Off the cuff, I want to tell you guys basically where I stand with Erik Ten Hag. And I want to start with a positive, because I think it's fair to do that. We're in the third cup final we've been in the past 2 seasons. Now, yes, you can question the teams that we faced along the way and the performances that we produced, but ultimately to be in the 3 cup finals is pretty decent in your first 2 seasons. I don't want to use this argument, but you know what I do, I'm going to. Arteta at Arsenal hasn't achieved that in the last couple of seasons. Erik Ten Hag has done it with Manchester United, and you might sit here and say, we're going to lose to Manchester City, like we did last year. Maybe we will. But simply by being in the finals, you do give yourself a chance at the trophy. Of course, we won one last season, and we've got a chance to do another this season. Erik Ten Hag deserves credit for that. Another thing which makes me kind of pro Ten Hag at times is just knowing what he can do. We all saw his Ajax sides. Now, yes, they had tactical problems, particularly from a defensive point of view, and I think those have been shown more than ever at Manchester United. But still, regardless of that, we know what Ten Hag done. He took an Ajax side which hadn't won the league in years and made them dominant. They destroyed the Eredivisie under Erik Ten Hag. They played incredible football. They were absolutely brilliant to watch. So I think, again, that is something which makes you almost want to be pro Ten Hag, because you know what he could achieve. I think he's also got the support of the players. And I think that's an important thing, because I don't know if all managers have. I'm not going to say previous managers have been thrown under the bus, but you cannot make the argument that these guys aren't playing for Ten Hag. They certainly are. We've seen too many games where, for example, we play through extra time, whether in this game and winning the shootout, or against Liverpool, or late comebacks earlier in the season. You wouldn't do that. The players wouldn't be producing that if they weren't playing for Erik Ten Hag. So I think that's another positive of Erik. Another positive would be the use of young players, the academy. That is something which Manchester United is built around, using these young footballers. And Ten Hag has done that. Garnacho breaking into the team last season and then this year becoming a starter. And then Kobbie Mainoo. I think if it weren't for his injury last pre-season, I think we would have seen him pretty much all season long this year. That's what Manchester United is all about, and Erik Ten Hag does seem to understand that. Kumbuala is another one who has had chances this season. So Erik Ten Hag does seem to trust the youth. I know people want him to use them more, but you've got to be realistic. You can't have 5, 6, 7 under 17-year-olds on the pitch, because it just doesn't work, right? Particularly in the current environment, it wouldn't do them much good to be exposed to what we are at the moment at this time in their career. It wouldn't be good for them. So I think Ten Hag has used the youth pretty well, in my opinion. I think the other thing which makes you want to back Ten Hag is the amount of injuries which we've had this season. He hasn't been able to use his best starting 11. And any manager would struggle with that. We have now had over 60 injuries to the Manchester United squad. How do you expect a manager to produce good football with that? You can't, right? Not consistent football, not consistent performances, building week on week and really developing something. When you've got so many players injured, you're never going to get that. I think the other thing which you could use as an argument for Ten Hag is that everything that he has done at the club so far has been under a horrible football club structure, right? From the Glazers to everything below them to everything below that to then Erik Ten Hag in the change room, etc. The chance for Ten Hag now to work with Ineos and hopefully the club moving in a new direction is a promising one. You know, we probably would never know the true Ten Hag level until he got the possibility and the potential and the opportunity, really, to work in a good footballing structure. So again, that makes you maybe side with Erik Ten Hag a little bit. And these are all things which I have going around in my head when I'm thinking about him. When I'm thinking about should we keep him this summer. These are all things which go around in my head. The other thing being, hopefully next season he has a squad which is good enough. We've seen this season that physically and technically it's just not. It's just not. I think some of Ten Hag's approach has been to expose that a little bit. Expose the players to physical technical, tactical and mental demands to see which ones are going to rise to the occasion and be brilliant moving forward, and to see which ones just don't rise to it, basically, and need to be ditched in the summer. I think Ten Hag has done that pretty well. So those are positives for Erik Ten Hag. And it does make you think, you know what, maybe he could be the guy. There's also, though, some horrible negatives.
So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFifa for 10% off when you order.
So what are the horrible negatives for Erik Ten Hag? It's pretty obvious. The tactics are horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. I have said this a few times, I've said it to friends, and I've also said it on the channel as well. I thoroughly believe that Manchester United, in terms of in the Premier League, are the worst defensive side in the league. Of course, people will throw the argument up of, we haven't conceded that many goals to certain people compared to certain teams. We've had this many clean sheets, or whatever. I understand that argument. But purely tactical structure, taking away individual ability, Onana's saves, or Varane and Maguire's box defence, or whatever you want to talk about. Removing all of that, purely looking at the tactical structure, we've seen it be absolutely horrendous all year long. Terrible. Terrible. Don't need to cover it really. We don't need to go through the tactics, but just to quickly kind of sweep over it, it's the idea of the forwards pressing high, the midfield sort of backing them but not completely, the defence not backing them at all, dropping super deep, and basically all the gaps which it leaves in between. That's the problem with us tactically, or it's one of the problems I should say, out of possession. We are horrible. Horrible to watch from a defensive point of view. I guess the next negative would be that it's been the case all season. It's not like this is a new problem and we need to address it, or that it was a problem we had 6 months ago but we've changed since then. It's been the same problem literally since Wolves on the first day of the season. Nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing. You could even look at the attacking side of our game as well. We haven't scored that many goals under Erik Ten Hag compared to other teams in the league. Even last season when we were a better outfit overall, we still didn't score that many goals. So that is something you could use against Erik Ten Hag. The other thing you could use is, earlier we used it to defend him, now let's go against him, injuries. Yes, you feel sorry for Erik Ten Hag because he's had over 60 injuries to his squad, but how much of that is his fault? His intensity in training, his demand on players, his rushing players back from injury, perhaps, I'm not too sure, but also the tactical structure once again. A team which is so exposed and has to do so much high volume sprints is going to get injured. Garnacho, for example, is a really good case of this, and somehow he hasn't got injured, but the amount of times he will be pressing high up here, and then a ball goes past and he's got to sprint a ridiculous amount of yards time and time again to get back into a defensive position. Of course, when you do that every week, every game in a competitive physical league, you're going to see injuries. Of course it's going to happen. The other thing I would throw at Ten Hag is his lack of in-game management. I think it's been really poor at times. Now, I'm not talking about the Coventry game. A lot of people have an issue with Kobbie Mainoo and Garnacho coming off. I do not. There is no issue there. At 3-0 up, two players who have been overplayed, protecting them is not a problem. Not a problem. There is no story there. I don't understand what people are saying. In my opinion, there's nothing to be had there. There's no story. Those players, we've been crying out for weeks for them to be protected and rotated. Ten Hag finally done it in circumstances where you would assume it's acceptable. I've got no problem with that. My bigger issue is teams that make tactical changes during games and our complete inability to react to it. Coventry are an example in that case. They went from a 5-2-1-2, which we destroyed, to more of a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-1-4-1, and we just didn't react. They outplayed us for 45 minutes, but then also all of extra time as well. Now, yes, perhaps some of it is individually on the players, which is a concern. But tactically, Ten Hag doesn't react. We've seen it all season long. Our high press, for example, will work well for 20 minutes, and then the opposition will find out what we're doing, tweak their system, play a little bit wider, for example, with the fullbacks, and then suddenly completely expose everything we're doing. And again, the problem is, not that it happens, not that the opposition adapt, because of course it happens, we're in a great league, but that Ten Hag doesn't adapt. I always use the example of Guardiola and Arteta. When you watch those two go toe-to-toe against each other in a big game, the amount of small tactical tweaks you see is incredible. It's so fun to watch. Ten Hag doesn't react in the same way. Ten Hag doesn't make those little tweaks. He doesn't react to managers finding him out, basically. And that sets his players up for failure. On the players, how many of them has he improved? How many players have really improved under Erik ten Hag? You could name a few for sure. Kobbie Mainoo, obviously. Diogo Dalot, Alejandro Garnacho. Rashford, you would say last season, but then this season he's gone backwards. How many has he improved? Interested to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Who do you think Ten Hag has improved at Manchester United? But again, it's something I would perhaps use against him. And the other thing, and this is a concern for me, is the buy-in of the players moving forward. I get, right, I've said it already, they haven't done tools under this manager, they have backed him physically. They've put their bodies on the line week in, week out. But at the back of your mind, when next season Erik ten Hag comes up to us and goes, alright, we're now going to play this structure, would you really believe in everything that he has to say? I hate to use the example and compare us to them. Let's look at Liverpool. I get the feeling that no matter what Klopp says to them tactically, the players will try their very best to do it because they believe that Klopp is right. Manchester City are the same. Those players must really look at Guardiola when he talks and think, it might sound crazy, but I'm going to back him. I wonder if the United players are going to have the same with Ten Hag moving forward, simply because he's coached us in some horrible games. These players, Dalot said it himself the other week, that the gaps are too big. The players know that. The players aren't daft. Well, some of them are. But they can see the problems as well, right? They know there's problems within their system. The centre-backs understand that, why am I defending this deep when everyone's so high? The wingers will be thinking, why am I sprinting back constantly? And it all comes back to Ten Hag's tactics. Moving forward, if Ten Hag was to make a tactical tweak, do the players fully buy into everything he has to say? I'm not sure. This is more of a not sure category sort of thing. Maybe that's a thing which the players could have in the back of their minds moving forward. But again, it's concerning. I think ultimately what you can see is that my opinion, probably like so many, is that there is real positives and there is real negatives to this current situation. The positives are what Ten Hag has done in the past, the fact that these players are still playing for him, his usage of youth and things like that, and you almost defend him a little bit because of the amount of injuries, the structure of the club above him. You almost think, give him Ineos, a better setup, he's going to do better. That's what you think. The downside is actually simply what we see on the football pitch, which he is in charge of, isn't good enough. And it's the same tactical mistakes week in, week out. And as an individual who runs a channel where we look at tactics, we don't look at squad building over the course of 5 years, or that certainly wasn't the plan for the channel. We look at tactics on the football pitch. Ten Hag's are awful. If I was to give him a manager rating for this season, tactically on the pitch, he'd do really well to get above a 2. Because it's been that poor. And that's a real negative. And you can see me kind of in this battle between should he stay or should he go. If you ask me right now, Ten Hag in or Ten Hag out, I would just, and I mean we're really close here, I am just about still saying Erik ten Hag in. And the reason for that is because for me, to be Erik ten Hag out, to sack your manager, you have to be sure. Ineos have to be certain it's the right thing to do. Because we do run the risk of going through the cycle again, right? I'm not guaranteeing it would happen, but we do run the risk. If you want to sack Ten Hag, I think you've got to be sure of it. 100%. And because I'm not 100%, it makes me Ten Hag in. Because I don't want Ineos to rush to any rash decisions this summer. So I am just Erik ten Hag in. Just about. But he's on a real fine line at the moment. He's really at risk of losing my support, if you like. I dare say that doesn't matter too much to him, but it's going to get to a point where it might be difficult to still say that he is the man for the job. Currently, I'm going to say that just about he is. And those are my thoughts on Erik ten Hag. A completely different style of video today, basically me just sitting and waffling. Some of you guys might say that's like a normal video, but less tactical talk, less things like that. Simply my opinions on Erik ten Hag, because again, I always ask for yours, so I think it's only right that I give you mine as well. Because there they are. I'm just about Erik ten Hag in. Just. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, join the Discord. Let me know what you think there. And also, there is a poll on the community page on the channel where you can vote Erik ten Hag in or Erik ten Hag out. I really want to hear your guys' thoughts. Now I've told you mine, tell me yours. Apart from that though, for today's video, we are going to wrap up there. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed something a little bit different. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.